Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This week, I'm going to kind of be tagging on to last week's episode, in that what came through in the past week and a half has been inspired and worked through in my ceremony with ayahuasca a few weekends ago. And I want to share it with you guys. It's a huge part of an opening in my life. And as you guys are on this journey, it feels like it's perfectly aligned to be a part of this journey moving forward. So, as you guys know, I think since December, had been getting this feeling that it was time to move. And I would say it was more Richard was the one, and I have talked about this before. He carries this energy that he knows where we're meant to be. And I don't know how and he doesn't know that he's doing this either, but I've told him you do it unconsciously, because he always brings us to the right places that our energy is ready for. So in December, when he told me, like, he was starting to look at land. And it's funny because he told me that originally when he started looking at land, it was so that we had a place to bring our Sprinter van and camp. That was like where it started for him. And so he just started looking in the like east of where we are now, in California. And then it kind of like got kind of bigger, and then we were really drawn to this one part of San Diego County. It's called Descanso, and in Spanish it means the resting spot. And I think that's why I felt like it was aligned. And also it's super remote. There's not even a grocery store there. They have like a couple markets, but they don't, in a restaurant, but they don't have like normal amenities and whatever. And I like that idea. It felt like you're really in the country. And we found a couple properties that we toured, and then, even put in an offer on one. And it felt like it was the one. Like, if we look back, and, the way what we were looking for is a place that we could live right now, that probably would be needing remodeling, because most of the homes out there are older and need updates. But we wanted land, and mainly he was like, I want land so that you can start doing retreats, and start, like, maybe we make some A-frame cabins. We can start like thinking about how we could lay this out but have space for people. And I remember at the time being like, what? Because he came up with this before I came up with this. And at the time, I had just had my rebirth on my birthday, and I knew there was a lot coming. And as I know, he's usually the catalyst that pushes me to the next step of where I'm ready to move. But I also couldn't really see, I was open, but I was also terrified. Let's just say that. But when we found this one place in Descanso, we both felt super aligned to it. And we put our offer in and never got even a response. So obviously, because I know energy is exactly the way that it's supposed to be, and it speaks to us in so many ways, we just have to tune into it and listen. So I told him, even before we knew if we were going to get that place or not, if it's not meant to be ours, it won't be, and that will be perfect. There's nothing, like, let's not have attachment to an outcome with this property. Yes, we're open to it, but is it open to us? And it turned out that realtor already had someone in mind to purchase the land. And, she put it on the market and had bids, but she didn't respond to us because it was really already sold. They were just trying to find the market value, which, again, at the time doesn't feel good, but in hindsight, it is what it is. Like, you can be fully open and ready to embrace a new experience, and it wasn't for us. Like, it wasn't welcoming us with the energy, right? So then, while we actually were on that land, we met two women that live in the area, and we exchanged information because at that point we thought, well, we're going to be moving here. Let's make friends, and these women were hikers. And I was like, oh, that's going to be amazing. I'm going to have a built-in like support system. And so we had been staying in touch, and one of them reached out to me about a few weeks later and asked like what happened. And I explained to her, we don't know. We never heard back. And, she then said that one of her neighbors was planning to move and that she is kind of a recluse and she doesn't want to show the property, but she thought of us immediately when she heard that she's open to moving. And so, that kind of started this energy and that motion of, maybe Descanso still is on the table. Maybe this is still the area. And I personally was like, if it comes through someone that's been around our energy and is inviting us to something, it felt more aligned anyway. So we had set up an appointment to go see this woman's house. And it's funny because we drove by it, I think the day before the appointment. And of course, this is in the country, so you're not able to see the whole property from the road. But as we drove by, Richard said, what do you feel? And I said, I feel nothing. I don't feel anything there. Maybe it's because we're not actually on the land, but I don't feel it. And it turned out the next day, that woman, that seller, ended up backing out. She canceled our appointment, and she actually isn't ready to sell. Like it's not only like her, I believe her husband and her had the property together, and then he passed, and she has, I believe, this is again me intuitively because I didn't have a conversation with her, but I feel she's not ready to move on. And that's why when we were at the property, I didn't feel the energy of it being open to anyone new. So we decided at that point, let's pull back. And that's when we decided to start looking at our current house and doing some updates and some remodels. And also that couple of weeks of like purging things that we don't need anymore and donating a lot of things. And it was just a lot of energy moving through. And it felt like the steps that we were taking in that direction only amplified. Like it started with just let's clear out a closet, and then it just like the snowball kept going. And I felt like, okay, that's, if we're meant to stay here, that's what the energy is going to show us, and it's perfect. And so we, like I said, we started putting some TLC into our house, and we're really enjoying it and planning some remodels in the kitchen and all this stuff. And then I had my ayahuasca ceremony, and I decided after my big breakthrough with my heart, I always have after ceremony just time to where it feels like a direct link to myself. And I spend the whole night communing with myself about the things that I need more clarity on. And so one of the things I asked was, what's going on with moving and Descanso? Why do we feel called there? And are we supposed to be there? And the way that it came into me was like that there was still, yes, we will move, but that the energy or the land that was ready to receive our energy hadn't been decided yet. And that that we needed to shift our focus, and that we needed to open up where we were looking and what we were looking for. And I remember being in ceremony feeling like, because I guess you're right. We've only been very focused on this one town, and it's a small town. And we were only looking for like a small house with land. And basically they said, we need to change that. So then that next day, Richard and I went to breakfast, and I was telling him, what came through. And I said, basically they said that we need to change what we're looking at and what we're looking for and where we're looking. And I also had another thing happen, which I didn't share with him until later in that. So that day after breakfast, he decides like, well, let's just go driving around. Let's just see what's out there. We haven't looked anywhere else. And we still wanted to go east of where we are, but we decided to just take a drive. So we first went to Descanso because there was a new property for sale there, and we both were like, absolutely did not want to move out as far as this one was. And we went to this other town called Pine Valley, which is even further east. And then as we were going to come back home, I said, why don't we stop in this other town called Alpine? And the reason we had never looked in this town was it's a little bit, it's like 10 miles closer to the city or San Diego, and it still has very remote areas, but it's developed, like there are communities, and it's not as rural as this town that we were looking at. But remember, we were always looking for land that we could build on. So I was like, you know what though, why don't we just be open? Let's see what, maybe we've never looked at one property here. We have this idea of what it is, but we don't know. So I said, let's just drive by this one listing that looks promising. And so we drive there, and we're like, wow, this is not what we expected at all. And we get to the front of the house, and this house has a very long driveway, so you couldn't see the house itself. So we decided, well, let's just go down the driveway. And by the time we get down to the house, we both are like, oh my God, it's so perfect. It's a way bigger house than two of us would ever need. But it feels like it's kind of like a nest, a bird's nest in amongst all of these trees and valleys. And it's so secluded and private. And it's like everything that we had wanted. The shift though, we had always thought that the offering or the retreat or the energies that we were going to be receiving would be separate from where we lived. And it's so funny because after the ceremony, after opening my heart space, that was it. We weren't lining up with these properties because they didn't want to be separate from us. It was meant to be with us. And so in that case, it was like, wait, maybe we can just get a bigger house. And why don't we just make that a retreat house, not separate? And so we called our realtor right away, and we're like, can you get us in to see this property today? And it turned out that he had opening time that day, so he got us an appointment. And then there was one other one that Richard had been looking at that was another town over. And it is directly across the street from Native Lands. And when he told me that, of course, our agent was like, well, let's just go and check it out. But then I remembered, actually, I know that land, and it was in my ceremony. And what happened, and I had forgotten, because a lot of times in ceremony, like so much is happening, you don't know what to hold and what to just let roll by. But what happened was that there was a land that I felt like if we were going to commune with it, that I would need to go to the tribal leader and have a conversation with before I would accept living on that land. And it felt like we needed permission to buy this property. So in my journey, I actually was sitting in like the lobby of the I've never been to this reservation, but I was in this reservation, and I asked for the tribal leader or the elders, and I sat there and I'm waiting there. And as I'm waiting there, I get this overwhelming feeling that their lands have been stripped away from them so many times. And in California, a lot of the native tribes have been pushed east because, whoever, again, took the lands to begin with, took the best lands, like the coast was probably where they lived, and now they're pushed back east. And I had this overwhelming feeling like, no, I do not feel comfortable asking for permission to be on their land when they've already given up so much. And what happens in ayahuasca is when you want to change the narrative or get out of a thread, you just kind of shake it off, almost like what you would see an animal do when it's shaking off energy. So in that moment, was as I'm sitting there waiting for the elders to come, I just was like, no, this doesn't feel right. And I shook it off. So it turned out that second property that we went to go see that day, or actually ended up being the first one we went to see, is across the street from a native land. And that land, they are buying back all the surrounding areas currently. Like they have been actively using their profits from their casino and buying back and growing it bigger. So it's so interesting that I already knew that. I mean, this land that the house is for sale on, it's not currently owned by the tribe, but there is an energy there that doesn't feel like it's for sale. So we looked at that property and I didn't feel like, I just didn't feel it. But then we went to the second property, which was the one that we originally were there to see to begin with. And you know, as we go down, it's a very long driveway. So as you get down there and we are like walking around, I remember Richard like cursing because he was like, I'm just going to say what he said because it's so funny, but he was like, fuck me. I was like, what? Like, he doesn't curse. I was like, what do you, he's like, this is incredible. This is insane. This is like, he just like, you could see every part of his body was a yes. Now, this property was not something that we ever would have been looking for. It was way above where we were looking in the price range. It was, like I said, in a town that we were not even looking in. And everything about it from the moment that we saw it felt yes. So then the address itself is 1444. And I said to him, I think this is it. I think this is the property. And okay, so then we have to sell in order to have this property, we would need to sell our current house, which in California, it is insane right now, the housing market. It's impossible to buy a house with a contingent on selling your own. Even though there are multiple people that are looking for properties, it's just a risk that if they prefer all cash buyers or, you know, people that have enough money that they don't need to sell something in order to buy something. So we decided we're going to go in with a strong offer with saying that we need to sell ours. And if it's meant to be, it will be. And that we put that in on 2/21/22. And then I kept thinking, like, if this is meant to be and they approve us, it will happen. It will happen tomorrow on 2/22/22. And if that is the case, then this is our new beginning. And this is meant to happen. This is a new chapter. This is a new, like, it felt like an opening in our hearts in every way. And sure enough, they accepted our offer on that portal day. And I was like, I was like, yes, I just knew everything about it felt like there were no questions. There were no like, well, how could we do this? Or will this work? Or the energy there felt 100% aligned with where I'm going in my own journey, where the things that Richard was wanting in his own path, and the peacefulness. And there is literally, you stand in that property and you just hear nature. You don't hear any planes overhead. You hear animals, you hear birds, and it's so secluded. Even though it's on a neighborhood street, it's like you take this driveway so far down into the valley, you don't see anything. No one can see you. It's just gorgeous. So I was like, well, yeah, I mean, they accepted our offer on that day, and it felt like, yeah, this is definitely aligned. Now, since then, I'm recording this today. It's March 2nd. And so, you know, we've had like a week to sit with this, and a lot of things had to happen so quickly in order for us to meet the deadlines of, you know, selling our house and, you know, having an open house and all the things. But along the way, there have been so many beautiful synchronicities that have almost like they have felt like if you imagine driving somewhere at night and you see like lights along this dark road, and it feels like each one of these synchronicities has been a spark of this is right, this is right. So the first one, other than the day that it was, we went into contract, the next step was doing the inspection. And I noticed that the inspector's price was $555. And I remember being like, oh, that's interesting. I just was like, put it in the back of my head, but it's interesting. So the inspection was scheduled for a couple of days ago, and I went and I brought my mom because Richard was working, and the owners of the house stayed there that whole day, and I was so like at first like, oh, is that going to be weird? And but they had already written our agent an email responding to some questions that we had, and they were like, we're so grateful that you brought to us the perfect buyers. So as I met them face to face, it turned out this whole time and Richard and I had assumed it was an older couple that was retiring because we knew they were retiring and moving to Kansas. And it turns out they're our age and they have 4 daughters, and the husband actually looks so much like Richard. How Richard used to have a beard, and this guy looks almost identical to Richard with a beard. And Becca, his wife, is a massage therapist, and it just felt like expand. Like it felt so, I can't. It's so hard to say. I don't even know how to say it, but. So we're there and we're talking with them, and I said to Tom, is the owner's name. I said we found out while we were there that he's was an electrician. So I said, Richard is really into woodworking, and he has a saw, and if you have time, if you could put in the 220 volt in the garage, obviously we would pay you, but I would be so thankful. And he looks at me and he goes, of course I will. What else do you want? Would you like me to paint the whole house? And no joke, the one thing of this entire house that I was telling Richard I would love to have done before we move in is it painted. Now, they have a lot of teenage daughters, and they have a zillion colors in this house. And I looked at him and I just started crying. I was like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah, I'm retired. I have free time. I want you guys to be as happy as you can be here. So you tell me what you want and I will do it. And in that moment, I just remember being like, everything that it's so hard because you go through life and you're so grateful for so many things, and then there was like maybe one thing in a thread, and I had only said this to Richard and I think my mom and my cousin, because she said she will come out the week that we move to help us paint, but the one thing, he offered it without even me saying a word. And I remember being like, because this is a big house, so I remember being like, is he for real? And he was like 100% like, yes. So then I'm having a conversation with the inspector, and I say to him, oh, I noticed that your price is $555, and I really appreciate that. And he looked at me and he goes, what are you talking about? See, sometimes when you're in this life, it's hard to know like who's on this path and who isn't, but when you see a synchronicity like that, there's a reason, right? So I brought it up. So I'm like, he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, that your price to do this was $555. And he goes, why do you say that? And I said, well, it's numerology and it is aligned. Like, it's all about change, and the fact that you're an inspector and you are bringing change to people's lives, like, to me, it was a synchronicity. And he just looks at me like with eyes like he's caught in the headlights, and he goes, what does 222 mean? I see it all the time. And I was like, oh, that you're in the right place and time. And he goes, my entire body is covered in goosebumps. I am such an anxious person, and I always feel like I'm not in the right place and time. And now I know that I am. And he just like, his whole expression and demeanor and everything about this man just changed within that one little like 2-minute conversation. And I have this little cheat sheet on my phone of the numbers. And so I'm like, I'm going to text this to you. So now you know they're communicating with you. They want you to know it's okay. Everything is aligned. And the thing is you already knew that because you were already sharing that energy in what you share with the world. And he just was like, I think he had never come across anyone spiritual before, but he was like shocked. So then, the next day I brought the paints to Tom, and Richard was like, you got to bring them our favorite cake from this bakery that we go to here in San Diego, and just bring it to them. Bring them one of these cakes. So I brought that as a thank you, and I just, again was like, Tom, like, I cannot thank you enough for even offering, and if there's anything that I can do, it's impossible to have gratitude for something that nobody would offer. I mean, again, you think nobody would offer these things. And my realtor is sitting there like, I've never come across this, because prior to this day, I forgot to mention, when he wrote our agent this email about how grateful he was for us to be the buyers, he said, as a thank you, I want to offer Richard and Gabrielle, I'm going to pay the services of the pool and the landscaper for the rest of the year. And our agent was like, I've never heard anyone offer that just because. So then the fact that he keeps offering, and he's like, like such an amazing soul. It's like, how can you receive a complete stranger's like graciousness and giving out of nowhere, So since then, we've had some conversations, Tom and I, and he is, it's so interesting. I don't think he's a spiritual man, but he said there's nothing in his life that makes him happier than to give from his heart, especially if it's something that he knows he can do and bring happiness to others. And on it, like, as we're having this conversation, I feel him so deeply that I'm like, that's what I feel. Like, I have that same vibration of, if I can light up one person, then I know I've done my work. I know that I'm aligned and I'm doing what I'm here to do. And he said, yeah, that's why I'm here. And then I said, along the way, there have been so many synchronicities that have told me and shown me that this is exactly where we need to be. And I said, the first one was your address. And I sent him, the 444 is, you're surrounded by angels. And honestly, at this point, I'm feeling like they are angels that are guiding me home, and obviously this property is going to be our home, and we plan for it to be our forever home. We already are planning to get married on this land, and it feels like they know that, and they just want us to be like so perfectly happy there that it's amazing. So then today, we have gotten offers on our current house, and it ended up that the offer that we accepted today is the exact amount of money that we are paying for the new property. And even that, I feel like everything is exactly aligned if we listen, right? So I look back now and I think, my mind thought Descanso was I was thinking nature. I need to be around nature. And even though, yes, you need to be around nature, if there's any resistance, open up, because Spirit can show us so much more than what we think we are ready for. And this property that we are now, so grateful to be a part of, was like, if the land that we were looking at before was like a level 10, this is like 100. And we weren't even feeling ourselves worthy of this 100. So I now can see that when you get stuck thinking like, this is how it needs to happen, no, there's so much more that can happen, and that can surprise you and bring you so much unexpected just joy. Like, every single time I have a conversation with these buyers now, I feel like I am in the presence of something much greater than myself, because I know Spirit is working through them. And I guess that would be what it is to manifest in this third dimension, and having and using other vessels to kind of like form this beautiful sphere around love, around something that ultimately is meant for you guys. Ultimately, what it means is that my heart has just blasted open to be able to hold space for something that is way bigger than me. And there are angels already working to make that happen. Now, another thing that happened in ceremony was they showed me that when I chose the title of the podcast, which is called My Leap of Faith, that came from me like taking the leap of faith into spirituality. That's always the way that I've viewed that title. And I call it my leap of faith because every day is a leap of faith into the unknown, right? But what they showed me in ceremony was actually, it was a leap of faith into my own heart. And the breaking open of all the barriers that I had created around it. So here on my physical plane, I thought that the leap was into all these unknown modalities and, all these crazy things that I had never heard of. No, it was always coming home, always about coming home. And then the moment that I could hold my home, my ancestry, my DNA, my love for all of it, it feels like such a new beginning. And I feel just grateful to be on this path. And I also know that although this is a new beginning for me right now, and the portal energy really helped activate it, I know that my life will be forever in new beginnings, because I always go back to this place of I know nothing. And I'm here and I'm ready to see the miracles of life. And this last week and a half has shown me in the physical 3D reality how we are creating our lives. We are creating every ounce of it. The idea of us selling our current house at the same value of what we purchased the new one at, I put that out there. I said that to our realtor. I said, this is what I would like. I would like it to be an even exchange. And at the time he was like, oh no, that's way above where you're going to land. And I was like, okay, that's what you think. And even Richard was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And I was like, no, that's what I feel. I feel it's meant to be an even exchange. And so when he got that offer, he was like, I don't know what you're doing. And I don't know what kind of energy you're putting out, but every single thing that you've asked for, it's happening without you doing anything. And I've never seen that before. And it's like, is that really what we're here to do? When you get to this point of being so open and so willing to act on what your guidance is, do you become part of the creation? I think back to even the price situation, and I had I would call it hope, because I believe that we deserve that. But I didn't do a ceremony around it. I didn't really call in spirit to help make it happen. I didn't try to manifest it. I just held energy and space that we deserve that. And it happened. And is that the goal? Are we meant to be, I guess, co-creators with our reality? And if so, can you just open yourself up instead of wanting something, just knowing that it is? I just felt like this is what it should be. And even though everyone around me said, no, that's not what it will be, I was like, well, let's see. I mean, you guys believe what you believe. I'm going to believe what I believe. And everything that I've believed has, and even like I said, with painting the house, with all of it, it just has become. So I want you guys to know that this is obviously a huge expansion for me. I am so ready for it. I'm so ready to be on this journey with you guys. And I'm so ready to even be coming to you guys from nature. That has been my wish of everything in this podcast, because Where I live now, it's over the flight path of San Diego. So I can't even be outside on a video call because the planes go by and it's just so loud. But when I'm in nature, I'm going to share that energy with you all. And I know that it's coming this package this way because of me being able to receive. So please sit with that in your own lives. Sometimes you can't and you aren't seeing things line up the way you think they should because you haven't even learned how to receive yet. All of this, I'm going to go back to, it all started with Richard proposing and breaking up my constructs of how I saw our relationship folding out and getting past my being afraid of receiving that kind of commitment or I guess love. Because more than anything, we've always been committed, but love in a way that I never had experienced before. And then, like, that was only on the first of the year, right? So every day since then has just been a expand, expand, expand. And how much can you hold, really? So I think this is a time that we really are being called to hold as much as we can in our heart space. And the more that you are able to let go of what you deem as safe, I think that's where the miracles are. And I'm not saying that I will not stumble along the way, but I am saying that I can see the difference. I see the difference of me thinking, why isn't this happening? Or why is this not aligning, versus opening up and just putting the energy out and waiting for it to come to me. Because every single part of this last week and a half has been a lesson in receiving. So I hope you guys are well. I hope that you can receive this message as I am giving because I need to give. Because for me to give and share this love and this journey is all about you guys. It's all about, well, no, I take that back. It's about me having a voice to share this love. But at the same time, if there weren't you guys to receive it, what would be the point? So I thank you guys for receiving me. I'm so excited. Like, I'm going to cry because I'm so excited to meet all of you guys in person and welcome you into this. I don't even know. It feels like a retreat nest. And I'm just so, so grateful for this journey and exactly the way it's unfolded, because now I appreciate it so, so, so much. And I know that you guys will as well.